Welcome to Hobby Clubhouse with a review of Bandai's Gundam Artifact Series 1, a new product from Bandai's Candy Toy division. This line came out of left field when it was announced in late 2020, and it got many people curious with how it imitates the look and the style of resin kits. Now this is curious for a few reasons. First, Bandai tends to stay away from extreme restylings that you commonly see in resin kits, like adding all kinds of mechanical details and flourishes that stray quite far away from the original designs. Now that's not to make too big of a point about Bandai's metal build series, but second, Bandai also wants nothing to do with resin kits in general. They don't produce them, and they don't seem to acknowledge them much at all, and yet here we have a product that even imitates that creamy, fleshy resin color. And they seem like an honestly good product, unlike many of the low-effort nostalgia-bait products that we see a dime a dozen from the candy toy people. So, upon release, a ton of Japanese YouTubers have already flocked to make videos of these, and now it's our turn here to take a closer look. So, the Gundam Artifact Series 1 was released in Japan in January 2021. Each box sells for 450 yen, and they are not blind boxes, so you can see which MS you get in each box. The box art is credited to Tomotakeya Kinoshita, whose art is not only seen in a lot of modern HGUC kits, but also a lot of Kotobukiya kits. There is a total of 5 MSs covered in this release, with number 01 being the Rick DS, 02 being the XS Gundam, 03 being Hi-Nu Gundam, 04 being the Nightingale, and 05 being the Byarlant Custom. On top of the cream coloring, each of them have this special clear red variant, which is supposed to be more rare, but it's really an odd choice to say the least, but we're gonna get to that. There's nothing but legal text on the sides, but the box is a little bit unusual in how the folded gates are on the sides and not the top and bottom like we usually see. Inside the box, we get the MS spread across actual runners inside sealed bags. You also get a folded sheet of instructions, which I really didn't expect because Bandai usually prints the instructions right onto the inside of the box to save some money. There's supposed to be one of those small blue square pieces of gum, but the one sold here in Hong Kong omits those, so here, Bandai skips even that little pretense that the candy ever had anything to do with candy toy. And let's take a closer look at the runners one by one, starting with the Rick DS. And here's the XS Gundam. Then the Hi-Nu, which mine turned out to be the red variant. And here's a Nightingale, also in clear red. And here's the Byarlant Custom. So as you can see, there are a lot of parts, and they're really tiny. Now I'm not speaking in hyperbole, even the box warns you that you need a knife and some tweezers on top of just simple cutters, and they're absolutely not kidding. Make sure you have a knife with a fresh blade because you seriously will not be able to complete any of the kits with just a pair of plain cutters. In fact, it's best if you have a micro saw like the one I have here made by Hasegawa to cut the parts off the runners because the cutters are often just too big. And here's where I have to voice my first complaint of this product. The build process was abject misery. If you buy all 5 of these, do not build them back to back like I had to. I mean, yes, they're small, we know that already, but they're also not going to come together easily like the nasty feat of the Nightingale that asks you to balance many small parts together while you sandwich the outside of the leg. I know, you might be thinking, I can handle it, I'm patient, and you probably are. Well, these kits are annoying more than you are patient, and you'll be breathing a sigh of relief when you're done, trust me. I don't mean they're bad kits, I mean they're extremely well crafted, but they're just too small to be sensible for most people. The package says 15 and up and they really aren't screwing around. But of course, it's hard not to praise just how detailed these kits are. They're all just 5.5 centimeters tall, so they only go up to the knees of this entry-grade RX-78. The slightly gross, fleshy color actually does show all the small details really well, with a strong contrast under normal lighting. So even if you don't paint these, and really, this is some Warhammer level of crazy painting here, they're gonna look okay. You'll enjoy looking at them on your shelf as is. Alright, let's go back to complaining about them a little bit more. That gross color. Now, resin kits aren't yellow because it's a pretty color. They're yellow because resin is yellow. Now these guys are made of ABS and there wasn't any real reason for them to be in this ugly color. Of course, we get it that this is a cheeky nod to garage kits, but I'm not sure how I feel about these tiny kits cosplaying as resin kits. honestly, I'm a little bit confused more than I'm excited. And the clear red. The Japanese are already calling these the Hazure color, meaning a miss or a fail, as in you lost the draw. And I don't blame them because the Hainu here looks like it's made of strawberry jello, and I wish I was just being glib. There's really no point in them being clear red, and the details all get lost in this mess of clear plastic. I mean, you can see the detail if you angle it around and the light shines off the surface, but that still proves the point that you can only see the darn thing when it isn't clear anymore. What the heck, Bandai? Okay, with that out of the way, let's look at each of the kits and those really cool details. Now, the Rick DS is perhaps the most radically redesigned of all 5 of the kits in this series. It has these giant circular joints here on the elbows and also the knees, and you get these complex panels that make up the exterior armor, and you get details like these little tiny nozzles on the random binders on the back. The bazooka gets a new blast shield that also has an integrated aiming sensor, and you'll notice that there's nearly no hollow spaces no matter what angle you look, except for these little bits on the beam pistols. And this is going to be true for all the kits, and that's pretty amazing. You can adjust the angle of the arms if you need, but basically nothing else moves. The legs rattle around a little bit, so you're going to want to glue them in place, but you're really going to want to do that with all the kits, as we'll soon see. Because the XS here has a problem where the top of the head simply doesn't slot in place at all, like not even a little. The slippery and compact ABS will push the top of the head right off, and I've seen several other YouTubers mention the same problem. So, with a bit of glue, we get the XS equipped with the auxiliary fuel tanks here. It's actually a very fitting choice since the S Gundam is long associated with advanced builds and ultra-detailed designs, but the overall styling doesn't seem to have been altered much here except for the incoms and the knees. This thing is crazy small, and yet the fins on the back thrusters still have all the tiny little fins on them. It's really quite insane as something just over 5 centimeters tall. The XS is very back heavy and it can't stand on its own, so you get this anchor piece to put over the heel to keep the XS from toppling over. This mostly works, but the XS will still fall over a lot, so I wonder why they didn't make this heel anchor a little bit bigger. The fuel tanks can be adjusted a little bit, but they wobble around really loosely, so this is something you're going to want to glue in place. Next up, the Hainu also didn't get a big makeover like the Rick DS did, but maybe we've gotten used to the Verka MG kit as the norm, so this maybe doesn't look as special. The Hainu is another design that only existed for many years as resin kits and illustrations, so being in the lineup is quite fitting. The wings look really nice as always, but compared to all the other 4 MSs, the Hainu is the least outrageous, and you're not going to spend as much time exploring the design. It's boxy and it's a Gundam, and even though it's a very well sculpted one, it's just not as interesting to explore. The shield here deserves praise because of all the details on the inside that are sculpted with a separate piece. And the Hainu is also the only kit here free of any rattling parts, and the only big nag here are the lower legs and the feet that really don't fit flush and they're gonna need some glue. The arms can be adjusted just like they can on the Rick DS. Going together with the Hainu is the Nightingale, which has the most number of parts in all 5 kits. It's also a nightmare to put together, with each funnel rack having 4 of these tiny little panels to slot in. They each have a little peg that's for attaching the funnels, which are also each their own piece. They're all a pain to cut out, and they're a pain to put into place. Don't let this one successful attempt here fool you into thinking that it's easy. Also a bit unsatisfying is the back skirt right here. It's like the designers were mandated to include at least one rattling part in each of these or something. The skirt really does just rattle loosely right here and there's nothing attaching them, so you're gonna need some glue. I do like the extra bend on this new foot design and all the exposed mechanical details, and despite how much suffering this caused me, I think I enjoy looking at this the most, right next to the Rick DS. Just look at all the crazy details on the foot and the toes. Or are they toes? It's really quite mesmerizing. The beam rifle is long and sleek and beautiful, and the shield has so much volume, and it also has this beautiful panel on the inner side. The arms can be adjusted, and nothing else on it moves at all. And lastly, we have the Byarlant Custom. Its mandatory wobbly parts are the arms. Now, I'm not sure I understand why this was picked. Maybe they wanted something that would look really cool in this ultra high detail interpretation, because most of them don't seem to have anything to do with one another except for the High Noon and the Nightingale. The Byarlant Custom shoulders carry the bulk of the MS's design with all the panels and the holes, and the forearms too with the beam cannon and all the fingers of the claw molded separately. The backskirt here is also pretty crazy too, with the inner lining being a separate piece from the outside, so you can paint this really easily. And they didn't have to do this, but they did just to show off to you that they could, and I really can't help but be a little bit impressed. There's a lot of exposed mechanical details on MS, like the tiny little waist here and the pipes that run down the metal frame. And the designers really had a field day sculpting all of this into a tiny little model kit. And as for this kit's mandated flaw, the wing boosters on the back here have a slightly ugly gap that you'll always see, and the whole MS leans forward, probably to balance the huge fuel tanks on the back, but it still looks really strange. And that's all 5 kits from the first release of Gundam Artifact. With all that said, here's a Hobby Clubhouse 3-point verdict on the Gundam Artifact Series 1. Number 1. They are as beautiful as advertised. Bandai delivered on the intensely detailed sculpts of each MS. Now you'd think there'd be some exaggeration or embellishment to their claims on the extreme detailing, but no, there really isn't. You get what they say they'll give you. So if you like what you see, you'll be happy with these. Not that you could easily, because they've been sold out everywhere and Bandai won't have any more of these until June. Everyone wants to see these kits for themselves, which brings us to number 2. Skill and patience is required. At the same time, these kits need your help to come together to look this good. It's absolutely possible that you can't finish a kit if you're not properly equipped, both in terms of experience and with your tools. Worse yet, it's possible to fail and ruin a kit beyond repair. Your fingers will hurt, you'll drop stuff and scream words you never knew you knew, and you'll blame yourself for signing up for this misery, so consider yourself warned. Number 3. It's a confusing product. Now I get these are beautiful pieces of work and it requires some master craftsmen to craft these, but these are also candy toy products and it has no business being them. You see, candy toys are sold alongside products aimed at very young fans in convenience stores in Japan, and they really shouldn't be randomly aimed at adults. This might as well have been a high-end adult collector's line, but yet you still get a piece of gum if you're in Japan, as if that was ever the point of buying any of these. So you get the stigma of being some man-child hogging toys from kids, and then you also get the poor random kid who's gonna buy one of these and have no hope of ever putting it together, or lose half the pieces while they're trying to do that. And there's also the red, clear coloring thing, which I really don't know what they're trying to do. I mean, they did something, and some of that something is really cool, but some of it, geez, what the hell, Bandai? So that's a review of the first wave of Gundam Artifact. The good and the bad don't cancel out each other, so this line ends up being wonderful and horrifying at the same time. I hope this helps you decide if you're up for this challenge or not. Thank you so much for watching. Come look us up on social media with updates on future videos and upcoming projects, links are in the description below, or hang out here some more with one of these other videos. But before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos from Hobby Clubhouse, and I'll see you next time.